There is a grown man in a Target parking lot at 7:43 in the morning. He got there before the store opened. Not for a sale, not for a prescription. He is there because Tuesday is reset day, and reset day means new Hot Wheels pegs. Somewhere in that fresh peg is a super treasure hunt, a tiny die-cast car worth $60, maybe $80, hidden among $2 models that look almost identical to it. He knows the difference, the slightly different finish, the real rider tires. He has a system. He has been doing this for 3 years. He is 34 years old. Most people who hear that react with something between amusement and mild concern, a grown man waiting in a parking lot for toy cars. The assumption is almost always the same: arrested development, a man who never fully grew up, something unresolved. That reading is not just wrong, it is almost perfectly backwards. To understand what is actually happening in that parking lot, you have to understand a very specific kind of childhood. Not childhood in the abstract, a particular window, roughly 1985 to 1999, a world that looked stable on the surface but was quietly coming apart underneath. The Cold War ended when these kids were in elementary school. The news showed fireworks over Berlin. The adults around them exhaled. For a solid stretch of years, the dominant message absorbed from Saturday morning cartoons, from scholastic book fairs, from the optimism of Oregon Trail on a school computer, was that things were getting better and would keep getting better. Progress was the background noise of that childhood. But underneath that, something else was running. These were children being raised during one of the most significant economic restructurings in American history. Downsizing became a corporate vocabulary word in the early 1990s. Fathers who had worked at the same plant for 20 years came home carrying boxes. The pension, the 30-year mortgage, the single income that covered a whole family, all of it was quietly being disassembled. Children absorbed this without having language for it. They saw it in the tension at dinner tables. They heard it in hushed phone calls. They felt it in the way conversations stopped the moment they walked into a room. They did not know what was wrong. They just knew something was. And then there were the objects. The Hot Wheels car was not just a toy. It was a small, perfectly engineered thing in a world that was starting to feel impermanent. It cost less than $2. It came in a blister pack hanging from a peg at Kmart, at Caldor, at Ames, stores that no longer exist, in a country that barely resembles itself from that era. A child could hold it in one hand and feel its weight. Die-cast zinc, real metal. It did not break when you dropped it. It did not need batteries. It did not require a subscription, an update, or a monthly fee. It simply was what it was, completely. Permanently. There's a psychological concept called object constancy, the understanding that things continue to exist even when they are out of sight. Children develop this early, but there's a more complex version that extends into emotional life, the ability to hold on to a sense of stability even when everything around you is shifting. For children who grew up sensing instability they could not name or control, certain objects became anchors. Not consciously, not deliberately, but the brain was making associations in the background, quietly the way it always does. This object equals safety. This object equals a moment when things felt whole. Now run that child forward 20 years. They graduate into a job market reshaped by the dot-com collapse. They are told to follow their passion by people who found their passion before the floor dropped out. They take on student debt for degrees that promise entry into a middle class that is quietly contracting. They reach their late 20s in 2008, when the financial system produces the largest economic crisis since the Great Depression, and watch in real time as the concept of a reliable future gets repriced. This is not background context. This is the wound. And the collecting behavior? That is the response to it. Here is what happens neurologically when a millennial adult picks up a Hot Wheels car in 2024. The object carries somatic memory, not just a thought, not just a feeling, but a full-body recall of a time before the weight of adult uncertainty arrived. Researchers studying nostalgia have found that it does not simply produce happiness, it produces psychological shelter. It temporarily reduces anxiety about the future by reinforcing a sense of continuous self, the feeling that there is a through line between who you were and who you are now. The past self survived. That is evidence the present self can too. But here's what separates adult collecting from simple nostalgia, and this is the part most people miss entirely. Adults who collect Hot Wheels cars are not passive. They are not rewatching old cartoons. They are not just eating the cereal from their childhood and calling it comfort. They are hunting. They are researching. They are learning metallurgy, manufacturing history, variation codes, case ratios. They are building genuine expertise in something that has zero professional payoff. And that is precisely the point. In a labor market where expertise is constantly devalued by automation, where the skill that earned you a promotion last year is obsolete next year, adult collectors are building a domain of mastery that cannot be disrupted. No algorithm can take away the knowledge of what distinguishes a 1971 mongoose from a 1972 mongoose. No company restructuring can erase the ability to spot a SpectraFlame redline in a mixed bin at an estate sale. The collection becomes a space of complete competence inside a world that frequently makes people feel incompetent. There's also a social dimension that almost nobody talks about. Hot Wheels collector communities are dense, specific, and highly ritualized. Swap meets in fairgrounds parking lots, online groups where members post find of the day photos with the same energy that previous generations reserved for showing off a Little League trophy. A shared language known only to insiders, case codes, treasure hunt abbreviations, the precise difference between a basic and a premium. This shared language creates belonging, and it creates a specific kind of belonging that millennials have found hardest to build in adulthood, the kind that doesn't depend on geography, income, or professional status. A collector with a 200-piece collection and a collector with a 2,000-piece collection stand at the same swap meet table and speak as equals. This matters more than it sounds, because millennial adulthood has been structurally isolated in ways that rarely get discussed. They married later, had children later, or not at all, moved frequently, chasing work, chasing affordability. The neighborhood as a social unit, the block where you knew every family, largely did not exist for them in adulthood the way it had in their childhood. The institutions that organized social life for previous generations, unions, churches, civic clubs, had thinned out by the time millennials were old enough to join them. The collector community fills a specific social vacuum that most millennials would struggle to articulate but immediately recognize the moment they find it. Return to the parking lot. 7:43 in the morning. The man waiting for the store to open is not escaping adulthood. He is managing it. He has identified, through trial and error, through years of lived experience, a behavior that delivers mastery, community, nostalgia-based anxiety reduction, and the neurological reward of the hunt, all in a format that costs $2 at minimum and requires nothing from anyone else. He has built a system inside a world that has repeatedly demonstrated that systems fail. This one is entirely under his control. The Hot Wheels car is not a toy he never put down. It's a tool he picked back up because the adult world gave him specific reasons to need it. The weight of it in his hand is not the weight of immaturity. It's the weight of a very small, very durable thing in the hands of someone who has learned through lived experience that most things are less durable than they appear. What looks like a grown man playing with toys is actually a grown man who knows exactly what he is doing and exactly why it works. The only people who find that strange are the ones who haven't yet admitted what they picked back up.